We live. We live. We live right now. Today is July 21st. July 21st. Got it right. 2025. I hope you're doing pretty good today. I'm doing pretty good. Mostly, I think so. So, I had an interesting 2 weeks. Some of this stuff will go up on the channel eventually soon. I don't know the orders that I put things on. I don't think it matters as much. But this is not a sitcom. But I used the Deep 27 and I had about 7 coffees that I was testing for what I'm going to be putting on the website eventually. I think I'm going to pick 2 and then, yeah, I think that's the way I'm going to roll. But the interesting thing that I did, which is the topic of the day, is how temperature changes the way coffee feels, or really just taste in general. So I didn't have a lot of coffee. I used my Kawa machine. It roasts 50 grams at a time. After it's roasted, it's about 43 to 44 grams of coffee. So I wanted to use a device that I knew that at first I called it a selfish device, but it's not. It's more than that. We'll talk about that for another day. But what it is that it allows you to make a smaller cups and essentially get similar to the same extraction as you would do out of 10, 15, even 20 grams of coffee out of another device. You can actually brew a lot more coffee. You really can. I settled at 10 grams of coffee to 150 grams of water, so 1 to 15 ratio. But initially, I got the grind size. At first, it was too coarse for my liking, so I went ahead and made it a little bit finer. I didn't do any TDS of it after that. So I had 7 coffees, so about 28 paper filters later, I'm here with a topic. It's kind of weird the way that works, but what I'm talking about now is temperature. Me personally, lately, I've been liking coffees at 190 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason why is because most of the time I'll be, I have roasted coffees that are at a medium or even to a lightly roasted coffee. So in order for me to carve out that or mitigate some of the acidity, that's the way that I've been balancing the coffees. Again, a topic for another day. But this time with these Brazilian coffees, I noticed something that was really interesting. These coffees were my typical dark roast, which I'm sure a lot of people's espresso roast, but whatever. It's a dark. Pretty much once I hear first crack or second crack, that's when I went ahead and pulled the coffee. In this case, I did it at 12 minutes total. 10 minutes of the first part to first crack, and then about a 2-minute developmental time. If you care about that, let me know. If you don't, I won't even talk about roasting. I really don't talk about roasting much anyway. But it was nicely developed. It had a 2-minute developmental time. And for the most part, these coffees are a medium to dark, if you want to say that. But in my scale, they're dark roast. And that was more so what I was going at, because I like dark roast when it actually has some type of flavor in it beyond just chocolatey and sweet tasting coffees, right? So we got that out the way. But I didn't know really what else to do with this particular experiment. And came to the conclusion is that I'll just go ahead and brew them at different temperatures. So everything was constant with these coffees. So I essentially had 4 shots at these coffees to taste them, to analyze them, to see what they were all about. So I brewed them at 1. Attempt was 190 degrees Fahrenheit, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 205 degrees Fahrenheit, and 212 degrees Fahrenheit, just so I can see a difference. Since I wasn't doing majority of these sessions all at once, I did one to the other extreme, meaning that I brewed 2 coffees. So one was at 190 and then the other one was at 205. And then either the next day or later in that day, I would do 200 degrees Fahrenheit and 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So I can just get that big contrast of really seeing what I was tasting. So it was interesting. And in this case, I think probably one coffee tasted okay at 190 degrees Fahrenheit, but majority of them were really juicy, really approachable at 205 degrees Fahrenheit. 200 worked really well. 212 at times surprised me too. It was more bitter initially, but then the coffees died down as I kept on drinking it and coating my mouth and all that. So, and the coffees constantly started to change. They started to open up. I started to notice that there's more fruitiness in the coffees at 200 and 205. I started to realize that 190 was significantly muting these coffees, and it just more so exhibited a sweet aspect of what I was drinking in these coffees. It was really eye-opening because a lot of times when we're drinking coffees, we're changing a lot of different variables, especially if we're geeking out with our goosenecks, variable temperatures, whatever devices or instruments or accessories that we have in order to make the best cup of coffee that we can for that time and day. But it just kind of just brings you back to the roots of like how you can change one thing. And when you change one thing, how that really transforms the way you look at things. And I'm curious to try this experiment again when I'm doing a medium roast, a lighter roast, and seeing how that changes that particular coffee at that time. It's really interesting. And I would suggest highly that you give it a try, give it a whirl. Just because, one, you can really tell the difference in the coffees. And I was pleasantly surprised, I shouldn't be surprised and shocked, how coffee at times can be finicky. So if you change one little variable, it does change significantly. But then when you change another variable or whatnot, it doesn't do anything. The coffee stays the same no matter what. So it kind of just gave me a different perspective, different reasoning for what we're trying to do here when we're drinking our coffees. And it's cool to just be as objective to the cause and the situation that we're dealing with. Meaning that even though I was gung-ho about 190 degrees Fahrenheit when I'm drinking my coffees, so even though I was gung-ho about drinking my coffees at 190 degrees, I realized that I was probably missing out on something spectacular about the coffee. It was going to be easy for me to judge that coffee in a bad light in this case, to think that it sucked, to think that something about this particular coffee didn't really gel right with my taste buds, with the way that I was thinking and all that stuff, right? And I'm glad that I did this experiment because it allowed me, and as I share this with you, to truly really get yourself out of the way, to try one or two things, try the temperature change experiment, and see what you like about this coffee in general. Because sometimes even me, we get so used to these recipes, the way that we do things. And as we do that, then it's easy for us to be like, man, this blows or this sucks, especially when it doesn't go the way that we want it to go. So that's what I'm saying here. Get out your way, pick a grind size, and then do a couple temperature pulses. Same recipe, same pulses, same type of way that you normally make the coffee, and see what it's all about for you. Because I think if you do that, I think if we push ourselves in a way to where we are tasting the coffee, we're going to give us our best shot in order to enjoy it. For instance, let's say you had 100 grams of coffee and you're wondering how you would use the least amount of coffees, but you want to dial it in as quickly as possible. What I would suggest, just hindsight looking in, is you could probably do it on the hard V60. It'll be a little tougher to do it that way. Is that you either use a hard V60 or the deep 27, use 5 grams of coffee, do 4 sessions. Pick the temperature that you like all the time, right? Pick a temperature that's out of your comfort zone. And then just keep going down that route and just sit there, drink the coffees, analyze them, go back and forth, see what you pinpoint about the differences, see if you can get a real difference at all. And then now you've only wasted 20, not wasted. You used 20 grams of coffee, and now you can dial in your coffee even more at the ideal temperature that you think will bring the best out of this coffee, because you've already tested it. You're not using anybody's protocol, meaning that this person online is telling you this, or I'm telling you that, or whatever you're reading online. At the end of the day, what you're doing is that you are playing in your own background as you figure this out. And as you figure it out, you're going to be in a better place. That's when you can push a little bit more or don't push a little bit here. And yeah, it's like I said, it's pretty mind-blowing how doing this experiment really taught me that we have to get out of our way and realize that this coffee has a lot more potential than we think that it does, especially when we're used to not going out of our comfort zone. And I think that's the biggest takeaway here. We have to push past our comfort zone, because if we don't push past our comfort zone, then what's going to happen is that we're going to treat everything the same. Certain coffees, certain ways that the roaster has actually roasted that coffee can really lead us in a way to where we don't enjoy it for whatever reason. If you want to get there a little bit faster, probably try the roaster's the roaster's recipe. But at the end of the day, you're in your house, you're trying to figure things out. And I think the best way to do that is for you to try the temperature change. So yeah, this is me, Okie at Everyday Beans. Try it out. Let me know what you think, because I think it's going to help you out more than you think. And then you'll be probably surprised that, probably have been, brewing my coffees at my comfort zone temperature. Probably I do need to push it or to see what's all out there for me. So this is Okie at Everyday Beans signing out. I'll talk to you later. Bye.